The first sale doesn't feel like a business. It feels like an accident. Someone paid you for something. You didn't expect it. You didn't have a logo or a business plan or a registered LLC or any of the things you were told you needed before you could call yourself an entrepreneur. You just solved someone's problem and they handed you money for it. $400, maybe $600. A number small enough that your friends would not consider it significant, and large enough that something shifted in the way you understood what was possible. Most people stop there. They frame the receipt. They tell the story at dinner. They wait for the feeling that confirms they have started something real. The feeling never arrives, because the feeling is not the signal. The second sale is the signal. The system is the business. This is your life at every level of building a business, from side hustle to empire. The employee trap. You are 28 years old and you are good at your job. Not adequate. Actually good. The kind that produces results measurably better than the person who had this role before you. Your salary is $67,000 a year. 2 raises in 3 years. Both 4%. Both exceptional in the review. Both absorbed by the lifestyle within 6 weeks. The ceiling is the problem, not the salary. The structure. The one that pays the person producing 3 times the value, the same as the person producing 1, because both showed up. Both attended the Thursday meeting nobody needed to attend. You are producing 3 times the value. You are receiving 1 times the pay. This is not a complaint. It is arithmetic. The idea arrives on a Tuesday evening. You are eating dinner thinking about a client problem your company is too slow to address. And you think, I could solve that. Not as an employee, as a person with a specific skill set applied directly to a specific problem for a specific person who would pay for the solution. The thought lasts 4 seconds before the other thoughts arrive. The mortgage, the car payment, the life calibrated to $67,000 a year. You eat the rest of your dinner. You do not write it down, but it does not leave. It is there at 5:30 the next morning. It is there on the commute. It is there in the Thursday meeting nobody needed to attend and in the Friday afternoon that feels like time being spent rather than time being used. 3 weeks later, you read about someone who left a corporate job to start a consulting practice in your exact field. Their year 1 revenue, $94,000, from one person, without a team, from a skill set not substantially different from yours. $94,000 from removing the structure that sits between the value you create and the money that value generates. That structure has a name. It is called an employer. And you have been inside one for 6 years while the math that could change your life sat on the other side of a decision you almost did not make. The first sale. A former colleague reaches out on a Wednesday morning. She has a problem the exact kind you solve every day at your current job. She asks if you know anyone who could help. You almost say you will ask around. You say, I could do it. She asks what you charge. You have no idea. You take your annual salary, divide by 2,080 hours, triple it because you read somewhere that is how you convert an employee rate to a consultant rate, $175 an hour. You say it before you can decide it is too high. She says that works. The project takes 11 hours. Kitchen table, 5:30 a.m., one Saturday morning, $1,925 lands in your account 3 days after delivery. You look at the notification for a long time. Not because $1,925 is life-changing, because this money is different from every dollar your employer has ever paid you. Your employer pays for availability for being inside the building for designated hours. This $1,925 is connected to nothing except a problem and its solution. Someone had a problem. You solved it. They paid you what the solution was worth. That is a completely different transaction, and it changes everything about how you understand the relationship between work and money. You open a spreadsheet. You type $1,925. Then, what if this happened every month? $23,100 a year. What if it happened twice? $46,200. More than 2/3 of your salary. You sit with that number for a long time, not with excitement with the specific, grounded feeling of someone who has just seen a calculation that cannot be unseen. The math does not require optimism. It does not require a market to cooperate, or timing to be perfect, or conditions to align. It only requires that someone keep paying for the thing they just paid for. 3 weeks later, your colleague refers someone else without being asked. Second client, second payment, $2,400. The question is no longer whether this is possible. The question is how fast you can make it real. The side hustle. You develop a routine. 5:30 a.m. before the day job demands anything. 9 p.m. after it releases you. Saturday mornings at the kitchen table. Not heroic hours. Just the hours that exist beside your actual life. Month 3. 4 clients. Monthly revenue, $5,800. You raise your rate to $210, not because you planned to, because the 4th client agreed without pausing, and you realized $175 had been wrong from the beginning. Month 5. 6 clients, $8,200. You hire a CPA. Not because the revenue requires it, because every hour on bookkeeping is an hour not spent at $210. You are learning to think in opportunity cost. Month 7. You lose a client. Budget cut. You find out Thursday afternoon via a brief professional email. You sit with it. Then you open the client list. $5,900 without that client. Still enough. Still building. You have built something with enough base that a single loss does not end it. Multiple clients produces a portfolio rather than a dependency, a structure that survives subtraction. You spend the weekend reaching out to 2 people in your network. By Friday, 1 is a new client. Month 8. 7 clients. $9,600 a month. No advertising, no website, no LinkedIn posts. Every client came from a referral. Every referral came from delivering work good enough that the person mentioned your name to someone else without being asked. The best marketing is not a funnel or a content calendar. It is a client who got more than they expected and told someone. You cannot manufacture word of mouth. You can only deserve it. Month 9. Your day job becomes impossible to hold at full capacity alongside everything else. Something gets less than your best. You are choosing by inaction which one it will be. Side hustle annualized, $115,200. Day job, $67,000. The spreadsheet has been saying go for 2 months. The fear has been saying wait. But there is a number you keep returning to. The number of hours you have left. 40 working years. Every year, inside the salary structure, is a year not spent building something whose value compounds independently of your hours. The math is not complicated. The math is terrifying, but it only points in one direction: the crossing. You do not quit on a dramatic morning. You quit on a Tuesday in February after a meeting that was not particularly bad and a day that was not particularly difficult. Nothing pushed you out. The math finally pulled you through. 3 weeks before the Tuesday, your manager offers a promotion, title change, 6% salary increase. You sit across from her and feel nothing that resembles what you expected. 6% of $67,000 is $4,020. The side hustle grew by more than that last month alone. You thank her. Say you need a few days. You go home and open the spreadsheet. You talk to 3 people. Your partner 2 hours on a Saturday afternoon. Not for permission, to think out loud. You end uncertain but clear. Clear is different from certain for a decision this size. Someone who did this before you. You ask one question. What do you know now that you wish you had known? He thinks. Then, I wish I had done it sooner. The fear I spent 18 months managing was significantly larger than the actual risk. The thing I was afraid of was mostly imaginary. The opportunity cost of waiting was entirely real. You write that down. Your CPA, 7 things to have in place before the first month without a paycheck. You do all 7 in 11 days. The resignation conversation. 15 minutes. Your manager asks if anything would change your mind. You tell her honestly, there is not, because the direction you are going and the direction this role leads are no longer the same direction. You walk to your car, sit in the parking lot for 4 minutes, not with drama, with the specific physical sensation of a structure releasing, the way a held breath finally lets go. First month without a salary, $11,800. You do not celebrate. You update the spreadsheet, check the pipeline, send 2 follow-up emails. The fear does not disappear on the other side, but it changes character. Before fear of what you might lose, after fear of what you have not yet built. That is a more productive relationship with fear. The first hire. Month 7 of full-time. Revenue plateau, $14,000 for 3 consecutive months. Not a market problem, a time problem. You are the machine. The machine has 55 available hours a week. You have maximized them. You track your time for 2 weeks. Billable work, 28 hours at $240. Non-billable tasks, 19 hours, of which 14 could be performed by someone at a fraction of your cost. 14 hours at $240 is $3,360 in lost billable time every week. $174,720 per year. That is the cost of not hiring. You hire a part-time operations coordinator, 20 hours per week, $28 per hour. She handles invoicing, contracts, scheduling, follow-ups, bookkeeping, everything consuming 14 hours of your week. Month 1 with the hire, $18,200. The ceiling moved. Delegation is harder than expected, not logistically, psychologically. You over-explain. Check her work unnecessarily. Take tasks back because it is faster to do them yourself. You establish a rule. If a task can be done 80% as well by someone else at a fraction of your cost, it is delegated permanently, without review. 80% done by someone else beats 100% done by you at $240 per billable hour. 6 weeks to internalize. After that, 38 hours per week instead of 55. Almost entirely client work and business development. Working fewer hours, generating more revenue. This is the moment you stop being a freelancer and start being a business owner. Not the first sale, not the crossing. This. System to empire. Month 18 of full-time. 3 employees, 1 contractor. Monthly revenue, $47,000. You take an 8-day vacation. The systems are not as solid as you want. You go anyway, because the only way to know if the business runs without you is to not be there. 3 things handled by your coordinator. 2 client questions answered. 1 new prospect booked for a discovery call on your return. Nothing burned down. The machine ran. Your senior consultant hired at month 8 presents a new service offering on a Wednesday afternoon. Adjacent problem. 4 potential clients identified. Revenue model built. He presents it with the specific energy of someone who has found an opportunity and needs the person above them to say yes. You say yes before he finishes. Because the instinct behind it is exactly the instinct that started this operation. You were that person once. He is that person now. Month 24. Monthly revenue $68,000. No week over 35 hours in 6 months. Someone offers to buy your business on a Thursday morning. A firm you have worked alongside for 2 years. Coffee on a Friday afternoon. A preliminary number slid across the table. Lembe Sisherwan Mayan. You read it, set it down, pick up your coffee. You do not accept it, not because it is too low, because you are not certain you want to sell. You spend 3 weeks not analyzing, interrogating. What is the business for? Is it the thing you build for the next 20 years? Or the first chapter from which the next thing launches? The person who did this before you says, it is not sell or keep, it is what you are optimizing for. Financial liquidity and freedom to start fresh sell. The satisfaction of building something larger, keep. Both are right. The question is which next 10 years you want to live inside. You know what the business is worth because you spent 2 years understanding how businesses like yours are valued. Revenue multiples, retention rates, the premium for recurring revenue, systems that run without the founder. exit strategy was not something you thought about when the offer arrived. You thought about it from the beginning, not because you planned to sell. Because a business built to be sellable, clean financials, documented systems, institutional client relationships, a team that operates independently is also the best business to keep. Building correctly produced an asset. The final number, $3,100,000. Signed on a Tuesday morning at the kitchen table. Same table as the first proposal, the resignation, the first hire decision. Different documents. The team stays. Your senior consultant takes a leadership role in the combined operation. You stay 18 months as an advisor. After that, your role ends. The business runs without you completely. You are 34 years old. 6 years ago, you were eating dinner thinking about a problem your employer was too slow to solve. You almost said you would ask around. You almost let the thought disappear. $175 became $1,925. $1,925 became a spreadsheet. The spreadsheet became a resignation. The resignation became a hire. The hire became a system. The system became $3,100,000 on a Tuesday morning. Every almost was the gap between the life you were living and the life you built. On a Wednesday afternoon, 4 months into your break, you talk to someone 18 months into a side hustle generating $6,200 a month. She is deciding whether the crossing makes sense, feeling the fear that is always larger than the actual risk it represents. You talk for 90 minutes. You tell her the $175 rate you said before you could change your mind. The client lost in month 7 that turned out to be survivable. The hire you almost talked yourself out of for 3 weeks that turned out to be the decision that moved the ceiling. The vacation you took before the systems were ready, because the only way to test whether the machine runs without you is to not be there. You tell her what the person before you told you at the crossing. The fear is larger than the actual risk. The opportunity cost of waiting is entirely real. She writes it down. She asks where to start. Start with the second sale. Not because the first proves anything about you or your ability or the market's appetite for what you do, because the second proves the first was not an accident. And the moment you know it was not an accident, the moment the evidence confirms that someone will pay, then someone else after that. The only question that remains is how long you are willing to wait before you stop treating it like a side project and start treating it like what it actually is, the beginning of something. Somewhere tonight, a 28-year-old is eating dinner at a kitchen table, thinking about a problem their employer is too slow to solve. The thought will last 4 seconds. Then the mortgage, the stability, the practiced logic of someone whose life is calibrated to a salary. Most of the time, the thought disappears. But sometimes someone says I could do it instead of I will ask around. Sometimes $175 comes out before $150 can take its place. Sometimes the second sale arrives and the spreadsheet opens and the math begins, and the fear which is real turns out to be smaller than the opportunity cost of the alternative. Sometimes the first sale is not the end of an experiment. It is the beginning of a system. And the system built correctly, staffed deliberately, documented thoroughly, turns out to be worth $3,100,000 on a Tuesday morning at a kitchen table where it started. Or something you keep, because a business built to be sellable is also the best business to own. Either way, it is yours. It started with a thought that lasted 4 seconds, and not disappearing. The first sale proves there is a market. The second sale proves it was not an accident. The system is the business. And the business built with the right people, doing the right work, inside the right structure, becomes the most durable asset you will ever own. More durable than a salary that requires your presence. More durable than an income that stops when you stop. More durable than any amount of exceptional on any March performance review. Start with the second sale.